Welcome to Chris and Jen in the Morning,
where it's always morning somewhere. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jen.
I don't know why I always find I forget the I'm Chris thing. Like, that is who I am.
I was about to say, he's Chris.
Just jump on in there and help me out. So I'm obviously perfectly caffeinated today.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. The weather here is absolutely atrocious, and we had fake spring last Saturday, and it was great. We went and sat in the park for a little bit, and then we're back in the 40s today. So
yeah, we're also in the 40s today, and it got really chilly last night. We were at a costume party, a murder mystery party.
Oh,
doing the murder, and
don't confess anything here. You don't want this showing up in a courtroom somewhere.
Yeah. It wasn't me this time.
Okay,
I didn't do it.
Good for you.
I just had a Broadway theater production, not Broadway. What was our town? Shady Oaks. A Shady Oaks theater production of Dial M for Murder.
Oh, murder. Okay.
So that was great, but yeah, it got chilly. So we all were like, "Oh, we should go outside now," and then we were like, "Never mind, it's a little chilly out."
Take it back.
I don't actually find the rainy weather to be dreadful, though. I think it's lovely.
Ollie does not like this weather. The thunderstorms, whenever the rain is coming down so hard, like it's hitting our window units, it scares him. And so he just starts like shaking and panting,
poor
and
baby.
Turns into a whole thing of having to emotionally support my dog.
Well, that is why we have them, you know?
Yeah.
Lola loves to cuddle when it's overcast out. So I got a lot of cuddles this morning. She hopped up in my lap and just refused to get down. She just refused. She was like, that's why I was just a couple of minutes late, because I had to shove her off my lap, and it was hard.
She needed extra cuddle time.
She did, but I'm like, bring on the overcast rainy weather, because I want to snuggle.
And hey, it's a lot cooler whenever it's that way. So
yeah. It's but here in Texas, the sun will actually come out, so it's not like when we lived in Ohio and it was overcast for, months.
Well, although I will say this weather topic does bring me to my moment of gratitude for this week. Having been born and raised in Texas and, just living in what felt like consistent heat for forever.
Yeah.
As we went through many of different weather patterns this week up here, it just reminded me, like, I am grateful to live in a place that has different seasons, that I can enjoy the cold and get out my coats and have a totally different wardrobe.
You mean you don't want it to be hot all year round?
I do not. I am not that person. So, and I have lots of friends who live up here and grew up in the Northeast, and they live for the summer. They're like, bring it on. I'm ready for the beach. I want to go sit in parks. And I'm like, it could take its time.
I am with you. I like the seasons. I do miss, like, growing up in Kansas, you get all 4 seasons. Yeah. And I know everywhere I've lived, they say, oh, if you don't like the weather, just wait a minute and it'll change. And it's kind of true everywhere, but I feel like in Kansas, it really was true. Like you could have a foot of snow on the ground, and the next day the sun is out shining brightly, and it all melts. And so you got a real fall. You don't get a real fall here. And in the spring, you just avoid being outside because it's allergy insanity, which is what's happening right now. But I'm not surprised that the weather has dipped back into cooler temps, because that always happens before the summer truly kind of opens up during springtime here. Because I always previously would buy the plants on sale at Costco and try to, make them live, and then the frost would come and they would all die. So I've given up on that. I'm just not a gardener, not a gardener. But I do love beach weather. And one of the things I actually wanted to talk about with you today was swimming in the ocean. Is it for you, or are you like, nah, I'm out on that?
Not interested. There are way too many things that could come for me in the ocean, and I'm not interested in being anyone's snack.
Is this why you never come to the beach with me?
No, that is also because I don't particularly care for sand. Um,
Oh, you're
and as
not
I've
a
said,
beach guy.
I'm not about the hot wet. Like,
So
go.
when I
I don't
buy my beach
mind.
house, you're not going to come visit.
Oh, I will absolutely come visit, but I will like if you're like the only thing we're gonna do is go sit on the beach. Like, I'm gonna need something else. So, is there in-town entertainment? Is there a murder mystery dinner we can attend?
I just think that you haven't experienced it correctly yet.
Okay.
I
Well, I
mean,
will say I growing up we used to go to Corpus Christi and swim out in the Gulf of Mexico, like all of the
okay, I
things.
understand why you don't like it.
But as I've gotten older, I've gone other places and experienced other beaches and other oceans. But I think the thing that really solidified it with me is I saw this documentary about a giant shark named Submarine. Now, I will admit, it has since been debunked, but that doesn't take away the fear that it instilled in me.
So, I love to go to the beach. It's my happy place. And
Mhm.
I also am terrified of the things in the water, big and small, the ones that can eat you and the ones that would never. The jellyfish, we love to go to Fort Morgan down by Gulf Shores, and they have like rays that are in the water right up on the shoreline. In fact, we went in May last year, kind of early in the season, and there were a lot of rays, which
Oh.
I don't recall. They're not stingrays; they're just smaller rays. But I don't recall really having seen them and previously. And I mean, we just saw a lot of them. But it's the jellyfish that like I'm terrified of the jellyfish. And in Fort Morgan, you can see in the water all the way down, which I don't like to be in water you can't see in. That's just not for me. But it's like I'll hop in the water and then I'll be like, okay, I can't stop thinking about it anymore. I'm done. I need to go sit up on the beach. But I think you don't
Now,
like the
do you get
beach.
in like full on? Like, do
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
go like to where your head's underwater and the whole thing?
Well, I don't like hang out with my head underwater because I don't have goggles. But like, yeah, we like to like play in the waves and stuff.
Yep.
Um, Ace,
I don't mind like walking and getting my feet wet, maybe up to like my knees,
oh, I
but
do love that. So I'll go for my walk along the beach a couple times a day, and I like to walk in the water and let it come. The only thing there is like while I'm on my walk on the beach is when I get my sunburn.
oh, yeah, because you can't be under your little hut thing.
Yeah. See, this is what I'm saying is you don't think you like the beach and the sand because you haven't been to the beach the way Ace does the beach.
Hmm. Well, then
Because
I guess I'll just have to come out and we'll do a whole series on it.
yeah, I
Beaching
mean,
with Ace.
Ace is like he's got the whole setup and like what sand? What?
Let's
But
get beached.
let's get beached. But yeah, I I I do love to be at the beach, but I also am terrified of the things in the water. I did swim with sharks a couple of years ago, actually. Nurse
Like on
sharks.
purpose?
Yeah, nurse sharks and stingrays. Um, Terrible, terrifying, terrifying. It was terrifying. I was could not enjoy it because I was terrified the whole time. There I was swimming in this little area of the ocean that was cordoned off with the like four or five nurse sharks in it and all the rays in it. And I just was like, everybody else is enjoying themselves. And I'm just going, can I get out yet? We paid for this. So I need to be here, but can I get out yet?
Look,
Swimming with the,
I think there are a lot of people who enjoy that type of adrenaline rush, but
no.
I am not one of those people.
I mean, like the nurse sharks are smaller sharks, and they're like not an aggressive shark, but like people can get bit by not aggressive things. Like
Yes.
toddlers aren't always aggressive and they bite.
Shark toddlers. You're just unleashing a new fear for me.
Also, those sharks are like Jen sized. So, like I don't know. What if they think I'm a threat? What if and then of course I was swimming going, can they smell the fear? I am terrified. Is that making me a target? How do I not be terrified?
I was going to ask that question if they were like trying to tell you, now be calm, don't be afraid. They sense that because I don't feel like them telling me that helps in any way.
I did swim with the dolphins, and that was actually really fun. I enjoyed swimming with the dolphins. And my son tells me that the dolphins are like the jerks of the ocean, but I don't know. I'm like not afraid of dolphins. They're funny and hilarious, and they have a bit of an attitude. And yeah, we swam with the dolphins. They pushed us forward as well. Like that was fun. I would do that again. But the
Now,
shark
is this
thing.
all in the same place that you go to the beach at, or was this someplace else?
No, I went on a cruise with my younger sister, and she convinced me that these would be fun things to do, so we did them.
Sounds like a sister thing to do.
It was kind of like I probably had a few too many of my favorite bar drinks and thought, sure, I can do that. And then here we are doing it, and I'm like, oh, well, I paid for this, so.
And I didn't have my favorite bar drinks with me.
No. We also went to like a cenote, and she dove off of these like high rocks into the little cenote, which is like super deep. And I was like, not doing that. Like, not on your life. Nope. Not gonna be glad I did it. Nope. Not doing
also
that.
Not going to look back and be like, dang, I missed an opportunity.
I don't wish I did it. I'm glad I didn't. When we go down to Fort Morgan, I always am like, so all we do is just sit on the beach because that's our favorite thing to do. Walk the beach, enjoy the beach, watch the thunderstorms over the beach. Like that's my favorite thing to do. But we they have like parasailing and stuff there.
Oh yeah.
And so I always say, I want to try that this year. And then no. I don't really,
the beach just
because
calls.
I'm like afraid of heights. And so I figure, okay, if I was going to be like doing the heights thing, at least the ocean is under me. So I'm like, it would hurt if you fell and like hit the ocean, but it's not like being over land. Like you're probably not going to die unless you're over the ocean, but you're in the deeper part because you're, parasailing. So if you fall, you can't just like fall onto the shallow part. And then that's where the sharkies are.
Yeah. That is a lot to unpack.
Just come nibble, nibble, nibble.
I too am not a fan of heights. Like I am not. I don't think I'm quite as extreme in that as you are. Because,
I don't think so either.
But I will say I don't enjoy ladders. I don't. So when
you don't just like hang out on the ladder for fun on the weekend?
No, I don't.
That's weird.
When Frank proposed, we were in a hot air balloon.
Yeah,
and right. I thought that I would be more afraid in a hot air balloon. But because the basket like came so high up to my chest, I felt more comfortable. Where the anxiety kicked in is like Frank was leaning on the basket, like and texting. And the phone is like over the edge. And all I'm thinking is like,
you're going to drop your phone.
Oh my gosh, if you drop your phone, like it will fall and hit someone. Or, I'm just like catastrophizing the event. But that's when I look back at the event, like I remember feeling that anxiety around him just so comfortably and casually. Because, he's like 6'1", 6'2", and like.
Who planned this hot air balloon?
He did. Like I knew that we were doing it, but and he does not have a fear of heights, so it was not a and not that like I'm fine with going up in high rises. I'll walk right up to the window, like all of those things. I don't mind that stuff. But like if you were like, hey, let's go do a rope course in the jungle.
You're not gonna go. I think we should go what's that called where you hook onto the line and you
Oh,
go,
zip lining?
yeah, we should do that.
I do want to try that. That seems like a fun
I
event.
do not want to. I do not want to do that.
And see, even parasailing sounds fun to me until it
You die.
gets to the catastrophe part. And then all of a sudden I'm like,
Until you die.
maybe I don't.
There's when I was in preschool, I think, I fell off the monkey bars at the playground and I broke my arm. And I don't know if that's why I'm afraid of heights, like the falling and the, I don't know, or if some people are just afraid of heights, or it's not like I'm an anxious person or anything.
You? No, not at all.
But I really am scared of heights. And I talk a real big game until I'm like one step up on the step ladder. And then I'm like, okay, somebody help me down.
Help, help.
I'm stuck.
Yeah.
We went to Seven Falls one year and for our 5-year anniversary. And just these stairs that are like old and metal and kind of rickety, and you walk up all of these stairs which are just kind of screwed into the side of this rock thing where the waterfalls are, and they're all slippery because it's waterfall. And so going up, I could like, okay, I'm gonna do this, just keep focusing on up, but then you have to come down.
Yeah.
I also, I don't have the best balance. I'm constantly like tripping and falling and running into the corner of the wall when I cut the corner too close on accident. Like I just don't have the best grasp of spatial awareness and whatever. And so like going down the stairs, I just feel like, I'm short, so you would think I'm like closer to the ground, but it's scary. Like maybe I'm short because I'm afraid of heights. Maybe that's it. It's
The
like
universe was like, ooh, we can't make her
Darwinism.
too tall.
Yeah. It can't be. Can you imagine if I was like,
It's like a size chart. Okay, people who are afraid of heights, we don't go above this.
can you imagine if I was like 6 foot tall? I'd be like,
I prefer to be seated at all times.
just crawling on the ground. Anyhow,
all right. So the takeaway is that I need to come and do the beach with you and Ace and experience
every year I invite
with
you,
y'all.
and every year you say non-committally, "Oh, sure," and then every year you don't join us.
Yeah, it's very true. But I think also part of that is it's not easy to get from where we are to where
hard. It just would require you to have a layover. It's not.
And I am a travel princess when it comes to that.
But really, a layover versus Jen, like,
okay,
I rank that low on your list.
No, you are not low on my list. It's the price that I also have to pay for a layover.
I mean, let's plan ahead.
Yeah, we can plan ahead.
We'll pick you up you fly in somewhere else and we'll pick you up along the way. Fly to Dallas and drive 12 hours with us.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that either. And also, I've seen the way you pack your vehicle. I don't think there's space for us.
We have a different vehicle now, so.
Oh, that's right. Y'all do. So when you go to the beach, do you read books? Do you...
Sometimes I read them... Well, I don't read the kind of books you read. You read books for learning, and I read books for disappearing. So
I do both.
I don't read books to learn stuff. That's not a thing that I like to do. I mean, I like to learn stuff. I just don't like to read for learning because I cannot stay focused. So podcast all the way. I do sometimes read books. I will sometimes like play some little games or whatever, but we'll like listen to music. I'll just I guess I read a lot, or Ace will read to me. That's my favorite. We're sitting out in our little beach tent camp fortress, and Ace is reading a book and I'm playing a game and listening to the ocean and looking out at the ocean and just like enjoying life. And we'll go for a
Does he
dip.
do
And
voices?
he doesn't do voices. No, that would be distracting, I feel
You would
like.
be distracted if he gave each character its own voice?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
because you'd be like, oh, that's not what I hear.
no, I'd just be busy giggling. I don't know. Ace has a very like relaxing voice to listen to. So it just like puts me in this zen place. Sometimes we'll
Gotcha.
do meditation on the beach together,
Nice.
especially when like work is trailing you to the beach. You just kind of let it all go.
No work on the beach.
I did that 1 year and regret it still 2 years later.
Well,
3 years, 3 years later, I think, actually. Yeah.
you live and you learn.
Right. No, the beach is a
Well,
no work place.
I am currently reading a book. I don't know if you would call it like a learning book, but
Probably.
it's by. So when I say I'm reading, I'm listening. I love Audible, um, and it's by Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. It's her memoir, and it's called The Lovely One. Um, and actually, I'm listening on Audible, and she is the narrator for it. So it's also really great to kind of hear her own words spoken by her. Um, I highly recommend it. I'm probably a little more than halfway through it. Um, but there was a section that she is reflecting on her college graduation, and I wanted to get your perspective on it because it like
Yes.
really like made me kind of reflect and think, and I just thought like, wow, this could be something really great for us to discuss. So um it's basically around like the power of words. So there's a section in the book where she's talking about her college graduation. She has a classmate who's chosen to deliver a speech. His name is Charles E. Romer, and I've tried to find the speech and I've just not been able to find it. But it's called No More Insignificant Words. And it's this story around how this demolition expert, who, despite being like world renowned, being sought after, was really humiliated whenever it came to him trying to fix, or not fix, but trying to learn how to read. Um, so he explains how this person learned his skill through a lot of apprenticeship,
Yeah.
and whenever he was in his 50s realized like I should really learn how to read. So he goes to a local community college to try and find reading lessons, and there was a woman who like, I'm just imagining she's like at this front desk, and he asks like, I would like to learn how to read. Is there someone that I can, is there a class I can take, something like that? And she responded with the phrase, you must be joking. And it says specifically in the text, like in a derisive tone while laughing. The man turned around and walked out and never returned. The point of the story, Romer was emphasizing the power of kind words and the responsibility of each of the graduates who was sitting in front of him, that it's their responsibility to lift others up. That this woman had the opportunity to assist the demolition expert, could have easily responded with like excitement and enthusiasm about helping him achieve his goals, getting him on this journey, all of this stuff. But she didn't. And, her impact was something very opposite and caused him to kind of walk away and never try to seek that goal again. She reflects on that in her memoir as being a reminder. And she reflects on a story that she says earlier about her grandmother, who also did not know how to read or write. She uses it as an opportunity to talk about how like our words have a lasting impact and power, which is something like I've frequently thought about, like, do words have power? Do words truly have meaning? I have personally spent a lot of time thinking about this and do believe that words have power and meaning and that they do have a lasting effect. But I understand not everyone thinks the same way as I do. So interested to kind of hear your perspective, and have you been in a place where, words have maybe landed, or you've said something that maybe years later you found, oh, that's not great.
Yeah. I mean, I do think words matter. I think that on the part of the speaker, it's our responsibility to try and be conscious of the words that we choose and what we choose to voice. It's not only how you choose to say something and how you can say something with kindness or, but still be honest, but sometimes it's whether or not it's worth it to say what it is
Yeah.
that you're going to say.
Yeah.
And then I think, we also have accountability on the part of the listener to, to know that sometimes we have the power to not let words matter as much too. That way we can all kind of meet each other in our moments of, imperfection. I think a lot of what I focus on is trying to take my own power back instead of giving it to other people and letting their words affect me so much, because how is that fair to somebody to expect that they always use all of the right words and never like screw up there? But also I know that I screw up too. I don't always say the right thing. I don't say that. I don't speak up when I should. Sometimes I speak up when I shouldn't. Sometimes, and then sometimes I just my my words that come out don't convey my intention. What I mean. Words do very much matter, and we should both respect that and understand that, and work to maybe not let them matter so much. What do you think about
Yeah.
that? I see you being perplexed. You're like,
I
that's
think
not where I expected you to go, Jen.
No, I think in the context of like knowing someone, like having a relationship and trusting them and all of that, like I would agree, because I like, even if I wasn't friends with someone, but like an acquaintance or work colleague that didn't work very closely with someone, like I think there's a certain level of assuming positive intent from people, and having to, like, if something has landed weird
Mm.
and like, oh, didn't like that, and then going back and like saying, hey, I just want to understand what may or may not have been meant. But I think in the context of like what the story that they're saying is, like this total stranger who came to seek help, and got this like really bad response from someone, um
But I'm just
like
saying, like, if you allow, now, look, I'm not, victim shaming or gaslighting or anything like that, right? But I think the kind of person I aspire to be is the person that does not allow a stranger to give me words that change my action or my intention or how I feel about myself. So just because somebody else opens their mouth and says words doesn't mean that I have to be along for the ride. Uh, and
but that
wherever their
doesn't mean
words would
that's
take me.
those right, but that doesn't mean those words still didn't hurt and still don't
But
create a
that's
lasting
the point
effect.
that I'm trying to make, is that you actually get to choose whether or not those words hurt. Like, you get to choose whether or not the words matter to you. And I think when we're not mastering that, um, we are at the mercy of other people's words. Where I aspire to be more often is in a place where other people can say things and it's really just more about them than it is about us. Like that woman, um, her response had nothing to do with this man she didn't know, and everything to do with her and her own opinions and feelings and whatever state of mind she was in. And I think that a part of our culture is that we too often take on other people's baggage by absorbing the words that they throw at us, like even the people we don't know. Somebody can say something, like it's like that whole thing of online, just keep scrolling. You don't agree, just keep scrolling, and yet people just get caught up in it and they get offended, and they, like, it's like, but you choose whether or not you want to engage. You choose whether you agree or you disagree, whether it's super offensive or not offensive. Even if you decide you want to engage, you don't have to get emotionally wrapped up in it.
I don't disagree with that. I think that is an idyllic state that is much easier said than achieved.
Well, I don't think we practice that here in our culture. I don't think that it's something that's taught. I think that instead what we're taught growing up, like if you think about the things that you were taught, at least the things I was taught, it was always about like being kind to others. It wasn't about being confident in myself and not allowing others to um to impact me. So like I think that's not something that as a culture we focus on, is like not being offended or impacted, but like there are other cultures out there that don't live the way that we do. um and I just think it's like really empowering and freeing to embrace that. So I'm not suggesting that we should all just walk around not being mindful about the words that we choose or say, or that we don't have accountability in that, because I do think it's really important. And I think that we do have the power to help other people feel more comfortable, more at ease, happier, more joyful. And we also have the power to, make people feel worse. And we need to be mindful of that. But I also think we need to be mindful as the receiver of how much power we give other people to manage our emotions for us.
I like that, because you've got to manage your own emotions.
Yeah. Right? Like it's so easy to be the victim of other people. But the thing is, you just can't ever control anybody else, what they choose to say, what they choose to not say. I can't go around relying on other people to make me feel better. Maybe even have been that person in moments. I certainly know and have been that person in moments where I'm fishing for somebody to say something to make me feel better. And you just need affirmation or whatever. But I think that we should be more mindful of that as a society.
Yeah. uh, I still go back to this idea around, I think as citizens of the human race, we also have to be aware that we don't know what everyone else has going on in their lives. You bump into someone here in the city, it's very easy to bump into someone and then be like, get that whatever out of the way. So if that's how you're starting your day and you're already not in a great place, it's not like I intentionally stepped into your way, or like I was
Yeah.
the one on this path and you stepped into me. Like it's that kind of stuff. And like I hear what you're saying around the don't let that like knock you off your trajectory for the day. Like that's on them. But if you're already not in a great headspace for whatever reason, that it can, like, it's just one more stressor, one more like clank in the armor, if you will, of your
Yeah.
day.
I think I do agree with you. And I agree that words do have power. I agree with that. I agree that words matter and that we should be mindful of that. Um, I I also think like everything we do, every way that we express ourselves, which, most often is with words, um, like there's an energy that we're passing along.
Yep.
And I also aspire to be in a place where I am passing on positive, good energy, because I want that to be the domino effect that somebody else receives and passes along. It's like if you're walking down the street and you smile at somebody, most often times they will smile back in return, and then they're smiling at somebody. And then, all of a sudden you have this whole street of smiling people, um,
Yeah.
versus, just kind of passing by without passing along some of that positive energy. And I think the same goes with words. If you choose to compliment somebody, it's like you see their whole energy change about them. They sit up straighter, their face lights up, and then the interaction that they have with the next person they come into contact with is maybe a little bit lighter. And so I definitely believe like everything that you do that passes energy from one person to another has a chain reaction.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of intention to take a negative energy you receive from somebody and not pass that on to
Yeah.
somebody else. Um,
That reminds me of a quote by this person. His name is Yehuda Berg, and I I always try to look up people before I share any of their quotes, and I do know there is history with him and all of the things, but I still think the quote he has, words have energy and power with the ability to help, to heal, to hinder, to hurt, to harm, to humiliate, and to humble. And like I don't disagree with that. I think words do have energy, and what you are putting out in the world is what is, in my mind, like what the world responds with. Um and then there's this beautiful Mother Teresa quote, which I'm sure everyone has heard, but it's like, kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless. And I just think about that because when you are down or when you are having a bad day, it's like having that catalog to go back to and remind yourself of truths that have been spoken over you um, that are kind. They go a long ways, and they do help, I think, change that energy that you're feeling and experiencing.
Well, and you mentioned this, so I'm big on affirmations, and I have this belief that if people can, have said things to me, um, that have shaped the way that I feel about myself, then I can say things to me that also shape the way that I feel about myself and the world around me, and so I am a big believer in affirmations and in repeating them over and over again, and until finally they start to sink in. And for me, it does sometimes take a lot of time. And sometimes I'm repeating my affirmations and saying, I aspire to feel this way versus, I feel this way because I want to be true to myself and how I'm feeling inside, but I
Yeah.
also want to, um, make a change in that. So I do believe that words matter, not just from one person to another, but they matter in what we say to ourselves. And we talk a lot about managing your inner head space,
Yep.
and I think what we often don't think about or forget to think about is that um, you know thoughts can come into your head unannounced, but then what you choose to do with those thoughts, that is up to you. So um, it's not that it's bad that you have thoughts that are negative. It's just whether you choose to dwell on them or keep them, or whether you choose to choose something different.
Right.
You choose to choose. But um, I think internal words matter too. The unspoken
Yeah.
words that you say to yourself, um, that also matters a lot. What we tell ourselves, and what we don't tell ourselves, both on the positive and the negative side. And I think sometimes we've talked a lot about self kindness, and the advice and feedback I've received consistently in my life, which is be kinder to yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and I think for me, part of that is just because something is a fact or is true doesn't mean that you need to call it out. Um, sometimes things don't have to be said
Yeah.
just because they're true, and also the truth is always through the perspective of the beholder, right?
Right.
So I'm not saying there aren't absolute truths. I'm just saying, you know, one person's perspective may be lacking um, certain insights or knowledge. So you may feel very strongly about something, and then there's a piece of information you don't have. I also think a lot of times when you have opinions like about other people, you know, you may have your facts, but what you're missing is the context. And context usually changes everything. So, fact, somebody's showing up as really cranky, um, and they're, that's not okay. And so, um, something needs to be done about that. But context, maybe they've got something going on in their life that's just
Right.
really hard. Um, and so maybe instead of them changing, we should just be a little more gracious to
Right. Because
give
I
them the
think
space.
Right. Because again, we never know what someone else is going through. And so, I think a lot of people talk about relationships being like 50-50 and meeting people halfway. And it's like some days it's hard to get to halfway, right? But if
Yeah.
you truly care about someone and you know their value, their worth, all of those things, like, hey, this is out of character for them. So, I'll give them space and maybe they're just having a bad day. Or if it's like something you continue to see, then say something,
I
like
mean,
ask.
maybe it's not out of character for them. Maybe it's totally in character, but maybe there's something going on in their life that, or their head, or their, something that is causing them to show up that way. And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where I come from with the words do matter, but maybe we should, instead of getting wrapped up in how we feel about them, consider what would cause somebody to show up with those words, like words. What must be going through their head or going on in their life that has them responding this way?
My personal belief on that is that's giving a stranger way too much time in my head. And I don't mean for that to be like rude or whatever, but I think to the point that you're making, like if you have an interaction with a stranger and it does like it's less than to be desired, um, like why let that get into you? Why let that soak into your psyche and create doubt and feelings and all of those things? Like hear it one in one ear, out the other, keep moving on with your day. Um, I, but I'm certainly not going to give a stranger like the benefit of the doubt that their bad day, bad morning, it's okay to take it out on me. Like,
Well, I don't know that I think it's okay for people to take things out on other
yeah,
people, but like I think that's just where grace and compassion come
right,
in,
right.
right?
Like I'm not going to look to rationalize why they showed up the way they did. Instead, I'm just going to be like,
You're just going to
I'm
move
moving
on.
on. Right.
I aspire to have that attitude. I often don't. I tend to fixate a lot on what people say, and maybe that's part of why my perspective in this conversation is words do matter, and yet maybe we shouldn't allow them to matter as much, because that's something that I work on is how do I not be um, you know on the journey that everyone else takes me on instead of being
Yeah.
on my own journey. um, but I do think, I want to be the kind of person that approaches every human with the kind of compassion and grace that I think humanity deserves just for being
Yeah.
human. Like, you don't have to earn that.
I agree.
And I think the more that I can practice that, then the more that I can help the energy that transpires between all of us be a little more positive than it is negative.
Yeah.
And I think, that's my part in helping to leave this world better than I found it is, um, to be constantly passing on more positive energy, so that people can have a brighter, lighter day.
Yeah. Um, there's this quote by Betty, I think she pronounces her last name Edie, but she had like a
Betty
near
Eddy.
death. I mean, it's Eadie, so maybe. Um, but she had a near death experience and she's written a few books about it. And she has this quote that says, if we understood the power of our thoughts, we would guard them more closely. If we understood the awesome power of our words, we would prefer silence to almost anything negative. And our thoughts and words, we create our own weakness and our own strength. Uh, our limitations and joys begin in our hearts. We can always replace negative with positive. And I think, like, to what you were saying, if we can hear those things in ourselves and start to change that way of thinking, that way of showing up, it then bleeds to the outside
Yeah,
and allows for us to have those types of engagements with others. Um, so yeah, I really liked that quote. It was, I
I
think
love
it,
that.
because it's about the self work that has to be done first so that you can show up for others.
Wasn't that just it? If we all just kind of focus ourselves internally, Whenever we feel like we're focused on somebody else and what needs to be fixed about them, if we can push ourselves to focus internally and figure out what is it about this that
Yeah.
that has me bothered. Facts aside, like we're not talking about right and wrong and who's right and who's wrong and all that, but like, why am I getting wrapped up in this? And
Yeah.
what do I do about that? Because uh, like, if I spend my time focusing on somebody else, this is wasted time.
Yeah. And I think a lot of this also goes back. I think the reason I spend so much time like thinking about these types of things, like, do words really matter? Do they have power? Is because I genuinely care about people. Like my entire career has been like people related, people focused. And so when people always ask me, well, if you weren't doing this, what else would you be doing? I I honestly say I don't know, because I mean it would be something people focused, because that is like where I am innately pulled towards. I want to feel connections with people. I want to help them. I want to support them. And I think that's one of those things that maybe that makes me a little bit more like understanding of things, or maybe a little more emotionally in tune with others. I don't know, but I do feel like that energy that you were talking about, it does show up and it does make a difference. And I think if we were to focus on that common sense of humanity that we all do have in common and start from that place, I think the world could be a different place.
Yeah, I mean, I not could be. I think it can be. Um, I mean, I think we still have the ability to make an impact on that.
Yeah.
And you think about the methodology of like 1% better, every day, 1% better. Like if we just, it's all the little small things that
Yeah.
add up, and we can all be a part of those little small things just by how we interact with those around us. And going out of our way to find opportunities to pass on a little bit of that positive energy to somebody
Yeah.
else. So, um,
Um, so she wraps up this story
yeah,
about this reflection about a self-learning that she has literally in the moment. So she had an incident with her grandmother, who she did not know could not read and write when she was probably in her early teens, and when or maybe even younger. But when and by she I mean Justice Brown. Um, when she learned about it, she always felt bad for the things that she had said about her grandmother. And like she apologized to her grandmother, but her grandmother like wasn't there, didn't hear it, like was, didn't, I don't think like truly understood it. So she's walked around her entire life knowing that she has said this stuff about her grandmother, this woman who she loves, cherish, like all these wonderful things. Um, but in that moment, she also learned the power of understanding how, as you grow as a human, you also learn and have life lessons.
yeah,
And you can't allow the things you've said and done in the past, when you didn't know better, when you didn't have the ability or the emotional intelligence. Um, and in that moment, she forgave herself for, like, she felt it was her opportunity was, I have to let this go because otherwise it's going to hold me back. Um, and not that anyone told her that she had to, or that it was hold it, like none of that. It was just her self-reflection in it that brought her to that. And I just, like, I know I've said things in the past that have been hurtful, that have upset people. Um, that's life, right? Like, we're not perfect. We do say things that um, may hurt others, but it's learning from that and understanding, like, again, words have power,
I think
words
that's
have
just it.
meaning.
You have to own your part in that,
Yeah.
and then learn and let go.
Let go. Yep.
And you can't own their part in that, where
Right.
they have to be able to let go of their part in that as
Right.
well. And you can't you can't bind yourself to their ability to move on and let it go.
Yeah.
Um, and you can't bind somebody else to your ability to move on and let it go.
Correct.
Which is, I think where I come from when I say, like, maybe words do matter. And on the part of the listener, we need to, or the receiver, we need to work to let them not matter so much,
Yep.
because we need to be able to give grace to other people as well.
Yep. This book, I'm just saying the amount of self-reflection that she takes you on in this it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is really well done. She walks you through like her entire life and kind of her journey. And it's not like just reciting, her history. It's like that self-reflection of the learning and the things that have like made her the person that she is today. Like stuff that I don't think a lot of us really give ourselves that time and space to really reflect on, and
Yeah.
things people have said that have now manifested and turned into like this amazing life lesson that I didn't even know at the time. Like it's that type of stuff. It's so
And
good. I
what's the name of
highly
the book?
recommend it. It's called The Lovely One.
The Lovely One. That's
Lovely
amazing.
One by Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, and it's really really good.
I'm really glad that you love to read books for learning, because then I get to learn from your learnings, whether or not I read the book.
Well, I promise to keep bringing them, but I also, just to be clear, I do read non-learning books.
And recommend that I read learning books. I love it. Well, thank you so much for that. And I think just a challenge to everybody that's listening to be thoughtful about the kind of energy that you're passing on to others, and the kind of energy that you're receiving, and then how that translates, through every interaction that you have. We'd also love to know about the words that matter to you. Things that you've heard. Chris has shared some amazing quotes, where the pen is truly mightier than the sword and the words, live on. We'd love for you to
Yeah.
share some of your favorite words with us. So call us, text us, email us, and share your favorite words with us. How can they get a hold of us, Chris?
So you can email us at chrisjeninthemorning@gmail.com. You can text or call us at 940-278-8129. And you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, do all of those things so that you
Drop a
can see.
comment with your favorite
Yeah.
words on this video or audio cast. If you're listening or watching, we would absolutely love to hear what words matter most to you. So, and if you want to hear more of this kind of conversation, then you definitely like and subscribe. So more of it will come to you.
Yeah, and if you have good book recommendations, always happy to
Yeah.
take those.
Chris will read those and then he'll tell us about it. Awesome.
All
Well,
right.
thanks so much for joining in with us this morning, and we hope you have a very amazing week.
Later.